Marc Berman of the New York Post with Armen and Levack on 104.5 The Team. And Mark, what are the chances at this point that the Knicks sit Carmelo Anthony and that he's done for the year and that they buy out Amari Stoudemire's contract, he's done with the Knicks, and that they just virtually mail it in for the rest of the season? How close are we to that exact scenario?
Yeah, we're getting very close. Carmelo, I think it's as much physical as mental. He hurt his knee in Miami the other night, and I just don't think he wants to go through this anymore. He definitely wants to play in the All-Star game. I don't think he's playing tonight in Orlando. He's almost definitely not. I think he will want to play Sunday. You know, there's an extended break this year, so maybe he comes back for a couple of games and makes his, finale against the Cavaliers. But I think it's very, very soon where he will shut it down for the season. May wait a little while before he gets surgery. Armari, it's a weird situation. I think he's torn, but I think ultimately the Knicks, are supportive of him wanting to move on to a playoff contender. Who knows how many years he has left? So I think it's 70-30 that he leaves the Knicks.
What kind of message is it sending to free agents out there that Melo doesn't want to play this season? Is that a bad thing?
I think it's pretty lousy. Actually, I think this whole season, once he started bringing up the knee situation, it's been sort of a cloud over the team. The uncertainty of his playing status from game to game, sort of the cloud that he brought with his franchise last season when he talked about free agency a little bit too much. So, he's supposed to be the leader of the team, and I know in some ways maybe someone would have shut it down earlier, but this is something you can possibly play through. You just have to have a lot of mental toughness. And if the team was in a playoff race, and that's a question we really have to ask him. Everyone keeps asking him, if the All-Star game wasn't in New York, would he have shut it down beforehand? And he says possibly. I'd like to know if the team was in a playoff race, would he still be playing basketball?
Marc Berman of the New York Post with Armen and Levack on 104.5 The Team. And Mark, right now at nypost.com. Also on your Twitter handle, you have it posted at nypost_Berman. You have a story in which you talked to Amari Stoudemire yesterday, and he spoke in past tense in relation to the Knicks. And he said, quote, "I gave it my all, man, my heart, my body, and my soul." What's the timetable? You said 70-30 on Amari getting bought out. What is the timetable on Amari getting bought out?
Yeah, either right after the trade deadline or after the All-Star break. He's got to sign with another team. Once he gets bought out, he's got to sign with another team on March 1st to be eligible for the playoffs. So it will definitely be before that. But I think sooner than later, I think Amari sees Carmelo ready to shut it down. Maybe they both go out together. Ironically, Carmelo said yesterday that he'd love for Amari to stay and finish out the year with him, except Carmelo's going to be rehabbing, so it's not like they're going to be on the court together. But it was a nice gesture by Carmelo saying he'd like to see Amari end the season as a Knickerbocker.
Is that the end of the bleeding, or guys like Calderon on the trading block? What are the other potential, exoduses from New York?
No, without a doubt, a lot more can happen. I think they'd like to have maybe at least a couple of roster spots to add a couple of young guys from the D-League and maybe have an extra roster spot in a trade. They still have those two trade exceptions that they could use in a deal, and they have to use it because July 1st they lose it, because they'll be under the salary cap under NBA rules. You can't carry your trade exceptions if you're under the cap. So they would Calderon is going to be tough to trade. 2 years left on his deal. Phil wants to trade him, but he's torn because this was his big investment in the offseason when he got rid of Chandler. So to give up on him so quickly would look very bad. Another admission of his drastic mistake. But Prigioni is not going to be back next year. They'd love to get a second-round pick for him. And, yeah, the Amari roster spot would be another one. So, yeah, as Phil said recently, don't be surprised by anything we do.
Do we know who the guys are that would fill those spots that maybe Knicks fans could go, hey, it's exciting, we can see the future now?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they have their second-round pick, Antetokounmpo, in the D-League. He wasn't signed. His first name is Thanasis. He's the brother of Giannis, the star player for the Bucks. So they drafted him in the second round with the 52nd pick. He's been playing in the D-League. They could give him a chance to get his feet wet. There's some complications with that because that means his contract next year would be a little greater because he'd be considered a second-year player. But it would be nice for Knicks fans. I mean, this is going to be a dreadful March and April for Knicks fans. It would be nice to see someone that they are trying to, have for the future and bring him up to the big club and sign him to an NBA contract. So that's a possibility. I wrote about another D-leaguer with their Westchester team, Orlando Sanchez. He's a bit of a project. I'm not sure they're ready to bring him up. Jermichael Green, who signed with Memphis out of the D-League. The Knicks love him, but it depends if Memphis signs him for the rest of the season, if he'll be available. There's guys out there that they like, and it would be nice to have a couple of roster spots. To have Amari stick on the team for the rest of the year, yeah, I mean, maybe they'll be more competitive, but it seems like a waste of time.
Marc Berman of the New York Post with Armen and Levack on your home for New York Sports 104.5 The Team, at @NYPost_Berman on Twitter. Mark, I work with a bunch of people, one guy in particular whose name is Levack sitting right next to me, who is proud to call himself a consummate New Yorker. Should those people be offended that Adam Silver dismissed James Dolan's letter in the way of calling him a consummate New Yorker? Not a big deal. Should we be offended by that in any way?
Yeah, I thought that was a very strange remark. Adam Silver had done an excellent job to date and has said all the right things, but he's trying to defend Dolan. But I mean, I don't think he should have suspended him or fined him, but I think he should have said, yeah, we really don't want our owners going at fans in that manner. And he should have sort of publicly reprimanded him. But instead he protected him and said something that he definitely should not have said. I think it looks bad for Adam Silver. And it's just bad timing, the whole thing with All-Star Weekend coming up, Dolan being one of the hosts. He does that technology NBA summit where he's a key speaker. It's unfortunate, and there's no apology coming from James Dolan. He feels he got wronged by the fan going public with it. So maybe if he would have reached out to him privately, maybe he would have said, I may have been too harsh on you. But since he went public, it doesn't look like Dolan is going to be apologizing.
Is that just kind of show how out of touch Dolan can be at times, the fact that he's shocked this went public?
Yeah, I mean, in this day and age, an email is not really private anymore. So I think he learned that. Maybe he'll talk about that at the technology summit. But, yeah, just a bad job. The hypocritical part of this is Dolan has this strict media policy and really doesn't want his players to be outspoken in the media and say anything inflammatory. And yet he goes after, a Knicks fan with a real viciousness, I thought. It was just a disturbing email on a couple of levels.
Marc Berman of the New York Post. Follow him on Twitter at @NYPost_Berman. Mark, I know you're a busy man. Enjoy the game tonight in Orlando, and as always, appreciate your time. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks a lot, guys. I really had a good time.